Hi everyone. So before we start this do now, I want to make a comment on the previous play posit. I realized that sometimes you input an answer that when it showed the correct answer, you realized you were correct. I went through and looked for that as well because I realized that it has to be input in a very specific way. And so if I saw that it was the correct answer, I marked it correct as well. Now remember, this is also all formative. So I don't expect for you to be able to show mastery on every single question immediately. I know it's going to be challenging. So if you get stuck on it, feel free and look at it again. So our do now today is actually 4 questions that cover some topics that we've done throughout the year. Now notice that I said that you should take about 15 minutes max to work on these. If you cannot do them in 15 minutes, write unsure in the answer and then move on so that you can see the answers in the end. All right, best of luck. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So the strategy for writing the equations of the horizontal line. Now the horizontal line, if you take a look at it, you could see that every ordered pair, for example, this one right here, that's -3, comma -3. This one right here is 0, -3. This one right here is 4, -3. What's always true? Y equals -3. So that's the answer to question number 1. Now the slope of the vertical line, well, we think about slope as rise over run, but this question has no run. That's 0, which means undefined. Calculating the y-intercept. I'm not going to do that down here because I don't want to squeeze. Y-intercept, x is 0. So y minus 6 equals 0 squared plus 3 times 0 plus 7. That's a y minus 6 equals 7. Y equals 13. Don't forget to write your answer as an ordered pair. Okay. Question 4. Now, we want slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. I'm going to start by finding the slope. So 2 minus 6, that's my rise, over 2 minus -6, that's my run. So -4 over 8, which is a -1/2. I'm going to plug that information in. Now, I don't have the b, so I have to use either ordered pair. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to use 2, 2. And we're going to plug it in. The y value is 2. The x value is 2. So in this case, I don't mess it up. 2 equals -1 plus b. B equals 3. I'm now going to take that. Y equals -1/2 x plus 3. So there's my answer to question number 4. Remember to come into Google Meeting if you need any help on any of that. Let's go on to today's objectives. We're going to learn about another special case, another special form. It's called point-slope form. Now, mathematicians aren't creative. We called it point-slope form because it gives you a point and gives you a slope. Just like slope-intercept gave you a slope and a intercept. So here is the special case. Point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m, all multiplied by x minus x1. As a reminder, we have the subscript of the 1 means that's a real point. So therefore, just like with slope-intercept form, m and x1, y1, these are placeholders. This is what we're actually trying to fill in versus x and y, which are the variables. So make sure you add this to your notes, pause the video if needed before moving on. So just like yesterday, we're going to have 2 explorations. So you're going to try this first, and then I'm going to go over it. See how you can do. All right, so I'm gonna write the equation here. I'm gonna go up here and label x1, y1, because those are our actual ordered pairs. So therefore, x1, which is 7, is going to replace this. And that means y1, which is a -1, is going to replace that. And last but not least, we have the slope of 6, which will replace that. So I can plug this all in. So it's a y minus a -1 equals 6 times x minus 7. I'm going to rewrite this as a y plus 1 equals 6x minus 7. There's now going to be two interactives for you to make sure that you feel confident on this material. All right. Here's exploration number 2. Instead of being given the point to plug in, I've now given you this equation, and I want you to figure out what was the slope and what was the point that was input into the function. Now notice I just wrote the original above because then I can match up. I have a y and I have a y. I have a minus and I have a minus. That means my y1 matches up with 6. That means my m matches up with 1/5. Well, I have an issue over here because it's written as minus x1, but this is written as a plus 2. Well, a plus 2 is the same as minus a -2. Well, now it matches up, and now I can see that x1 is a -2. So therefore, my slope is 1/5, and my x1 comma y1, my point that was used, was -2 comma 6. So we see a plus here in front of the 2, and we might think +2, but it's actually a -2. And we see the -6, so we might think -6, but it's actually a +6. So make special note of that before going on. Okay, here is exploration 3. I want you to pull out the information, just like we did with slope-intercept yesterday. And in your notebook, I want you to graph that function. So take a moment and do that. So as you see, I wrote the general case and our special case where I color coded it, and I rewrote the +3 as a minus a -3 to make sure that matches up. So therefore, my point is 9 comma -3, and my slope is 2. So if I go over, and of course I didn't give myself a big enough graph, but 9 -3 would be right there. And a slope of 2, that's 2 over 1, so that'd be up 1, 2 over 1. So this would be at 9, 10. And that is my graph. How'd your graph match up? Now, just like the other day with slope-intercept form, we're now going to write equations in point-slope form. So again, let's think about point-slope form. So we're going to start and we're going to say, okay, let's get to point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We need a point. Well, we have 2. It doesn't matter which one you use. And we need a slope. Well, we can calculate the slope. Okay, 3 minus -4 all over 10 minus 2 is our slope. That's a 7/8. So there's my slope. So let's write the equation. Let's use the first point. y minus y1, that's y minus -4, that's +4, equals 7/8. X minus x1, well, x1 would be 2. There you go. Done. Well, I could have used the other point. Y minus 3 equals 7/8 x minus 10. So whereas slope-intercept form has one way because there's only one y-intercept, point-slope has infinite because there's infinite points. Make sure you have this example written down. So here are two practice problems that I'm going to let you do. So I'm going to pause it and give you a chance. So here are the answers for practice 1 and 2. As you see for practice 1, I started by finding the slope, and then I plugged that in to m here and here, and then I used either point. Either would be correct. Now for practice 2, I counted the slope of 2/1, which is 2. And as you see, there are 6 different points that you could see nicely. It doesn't matter which of those 6 you would use, they all would have been correct. This is what's nice about point slope versus slope intercept form, because it's more just substituting in values versus having to find the y-intercept if we're not given it. Now, this is an instruction that you'll sometimes hear. You'll hear someone say, solve for y in terms of x. It's another way of saying write the equation in slope-intercept form for us this year. But I'm going to do this example, and I'm going to show you what it means. Solve for b in terms of p and h. So we have this equation. And when it says solve for b, that means in the end, oh, that's supposed to be an h. So solve for b, it means in the end, I want b equals. The idea is to get b by itself. So I'm going to start. I can subtract 2h from both sides. Well, p minus 2h, I can't do that, so I just write it as p minus 2h equals I'll put a line down the middle, a 2b, well, 2h minus 2h, that's gone. Well, that's a 2 times b, so I divide by 2. I divide by 2. Well, b equals, as our goal is to get to, I don't know what p minus 2h is, so I'm just going to leave it as p minus 2h over 2. So I just solved for b in terms of, which means it equals something with p and h. But we're now going to see how we can use that with linear equations. So I have another example that I'm going to do. Here is an equation in point-slope form. Y minus 9 equals 1/3 x plus 6. Our goal is to solve for y, so to get y equals something with x. Another way of saying this is get to slope-intercept form. So there's two major differences about point slope and slope-intercept. Well, slope-intercept has no parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to distribute. So y minus 9 equals a 1/3 x. I'm going to distribute, get a plus 2. The other thing is y is by itself. Y is isolated. That's the second difference. Okay, so plus 9 plus 9. Well, -9 plus 9, that disappears, and we've left with just y on the left side. 1/3 x plus 11. This is now in slope-intercept form. The y-intercept is 0, 11. So yesterday we learned one way to get to slope-intercept form. This is another way. We can actually go to point slope first and then convert it into slope-intercept form. Make sure this is in your notes. And if you don't understand, make sure you come see me in Google Meet. Otherwise, here are two practice problems. And let me make sure that that's visible, not hidden by me. So your goal is to write the equation in point-slope form and then convert it into slope-intercept form. So let's see how you do. I'm going to give you some time, and after you do it, plug in the answer and see how you get. Now, I'm going to give the explanation after practice 3 and then after practice 4. So far all I've done is found the slope, and then I substituted that slope in as well as the point. So notice that I had 2 points, so I wrote both possible options because I want to show you that it doesn't matter which one you did, the slope-intercept form is unique. So I'm going to, again, start by distributing, and I get y minus 2 equals 3/4 x plus a 12. And then I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and I get y equals 3/4 x plus 14. Okay, so that's our goal. Let's see if we get that on the other side. Distribute y minus 20 equals 3/4 x minus a 6 plus 20 to both sides, and I get y equals 3/4 x plus 14. So no matter what, slope-intercept form, there is only one form, and all point-slope forms will result in that one. So using that, check your practice 4 before going on and seeing the answer. So here is the answer to practice problem 4. Notice again, I did both cases. You don't have to do both cases. I'm just doing it so if you did it one way or the other way, you can follow your work. But in both cases, they both resulted in the same, meaning that our y-intercept is 0, 2.